Tsubasa is a rich loser who is forced to move to the countryside, expecting a monotonous life. However, when he meets a town baddie who makes his boring existence exciting, he decides to do whatever it's needed to rizz her up. It all started on the day Tsubasa just arrived in Hokkaido from Tokyo. While in the car, Tsubasa is admiring the snow of the city of Hokkaido, but then he gets a message from his father telling him that he can't pick him up, so Tsubasa decides to get out of the car. Tsubasa likes the quietness because it is nothing like Tokyo, but when he tries to breathe the fresh air, it makes his lungs freeze. Tsubasa is shocked by the winter in Hokkaido, but then, like a fire in the middle of the snow, Tsubasa sees a hot, blonde, Hokkaido snow bunny, who mesmerizes him with how she looks. Suddenly, the girl notices Tsubasa looking at her, which makes him panic, so he goes to the girl and asks for directions to his house. While the girl is looking at his phone, Tsubasa can't stop looking at her. Then the girl points the way Tsubasa should go, so he immediately walks there, which relieves him. Suddenly, the girl stops and tells him that he is far from his home. She explains that he needs hours walking on the snow to reach his home, and Tsubasa wants to call a taxi. But the girl tells him that it will take half an hour, which gives him no choice but to die in the snow. Then, the girl tells him that he can wait with her, who will take the bus, and Tsubasa is relieved, so he thanks the girl for saving his life. Then, Tsubasa tells her that he is moving out of Tokyo, and she reacts with disbelief, puzzled that anyone would choose to leave the capital for snowy Hokkaido. She asks if he finds Hokkaido boring, but Tsubasa tells her that he finds them quite the opposite, which surprises the girl, but unbeknownst to her, Tsubasa is a lame kid from Tokyo, and coming here makes him relieved because no one knows he is lame. The girl finds Tsubasa an alright guy, and then she learns Tsubasa will go to the same school as her, which makes the girl happy to know that she has a new friend. Tsubasa notices the girl is too close to him because he can feel something squishy.
What do you mean by that?
Pressing his arm, so he tells the girl about the arm situation. But the girl tells him that she is cold, so Tsubasa tells her not to stop holding his arm. Then, the girl starts sneezing, so Tsubasa gives her a tissue. While the girl is cleaning her nose, Tsubasa starts daydreaming, and the girl notices it, so she puts snow inside his jacket. Then, Tsubasa sees the girl drop a tear of happiness and calls her pretty, which makes the girl blush, but before she gets to process it, the bus suddenly arrives. Before the girl leaves, Tsubasa asks her name. She tells him that she is Fuyuki Minami, and she can't wait to see him at school. Tsubasa is relieved that he came to Hokkaido because he got a girl's name, while Minami is blushing and wondering if Tsubasa will be in the same class as her. The next day, Tsubasa introduces himself in front of the class and gets seated at the back. Suddenly, Minami appears, and when she sees Tsubasa, she attempts to hug him before the teacher scolds her for being late and acting chaotic so early. Minami sits next to Tsubasa where they get to know each other. In the middle of learning, Tsubasa notices the class was like a freezer, which makes him start shaking. He notices a lot of his classmates wear jackets or bring blankets, which makes him wish he had brought one. Suddenly, Minami gives him her blanket and tells him that she always brings a spare, and she is feeling toasty that day, so she is willing to lend him her blanket. Tsubasa immediately uses the blanket and feels warm, like Minami is there on his lap. After school, Tsubasa gives the blanket back to her, and after Tsubasa thanks her, Minami starts smelling the blanket. She tells him that it smells like him and her smooshing together, which makes him blush. But then, Minami asks Tsubasa if he has a way of thanking her for the blanket. So Tsubasa walks her home, but she wants him to take her to the train station. On their walk, Minami learns that Tsubasa doesn't have a girlfriend, and Tokyo has a lot of places to go for a date. Tsubasa also learns that in Katami, people hang out in each other's homes. When they arrive at the train station, Minami asks Tsubasa if he wants to come to her house the next day, which shocks him. Minami notices Tsubasa acting weird, so she asks again, but Tsubasa tells her that he will be there, so they exchange numbers. The next day, Tsubasa goes to her house, and when he gets inside, he is furious because Minami is wearing something devilishly. Then they go to the living room, and Tsubasa learns that Minami's house has heated floors. Suddenly, Minami starts nudging him with her feet, asking if there's anything he feels like doing. Before he can answer, she leaves to grab yogurt. When she returns the carton to the fridge, she notices a white splatter on her shorts, and he immediately gags, imagining that it's something else. While Minami is changing, Tsubasa tries to calm himself down. Then, Tsubasa is shocked again because Minami wears something too appealing. Tsubasa is shy, so he immediately tells Minami that they can watch a movie. While trying to turn on the movie, Tsubasa accidentally sees Minami's cakes. While watching the movie, Tsubasa feels awkward because there is a spicy scene on screen. Then, he hears a noise of Minami doing something, which corners him. Minami starts teasing him by rubbing his legs with her legs, but Tsubasa realizes she is sleeping. Tsubasa is confused why Minami is so careless, but then he realizes that she doesn't see him as a guy. After the movie finishes, Minami wakes up and learns that Tsubasa is going home. Minami notices that Tsubasa put his jacket on her as a blanket, and he explains that the room got colder, so he covered her with it. While on his way home, Minami suddenly runs toward him and immediately apologizes for being so careless and falling asleep. Tsubasa notices Minami isn't wearing anything warm, so he puts his scarf on her, and Minami is blushing because of how caring Tsubasa is, but then he starts sneezing, so she asks him to go and eat something as an apology. Tsubasa and Minami get warm food, and then Minami gives him a rice ball. Minami notices Tsubasa is eating like a baby, so she grabs a grain of rice from his cheek and eats it, which makes him blush. The next day, on the way to school, Minami goes to build a little snowman and posts it on her story. Then she sees that Tsubasa is looking at something, so she surprises him with a whisper. Minami notices that Tsubasa is looking at the Winter Festival pamphlet, so she asks him to go out with her that weekend. Later that night, Minami has dinner with her family, and Minami's mother asks them what they want to do for the weekend. Minami's sister wants to go ice skating, but Minami has to pass because she is going to the Winter Festival with a friend. Hearing her statement, Minami's mother reminds her that she used to go there a lot when she was little. Then, while her family discusses slopes and schedules, she's glued to her phone, messaging Tsubasa about their meeting point for the next day and sending him the selfie she took earlier. The second he sees it, it hits him like a critical blow, yet he tries to steady himself, insisting she probably invited him only out of kindness toward the new transfer student. The day of the Winter Festival, Tsubasa waits for Minami at the train station, and when she appears, he is surprised by what Minami is wearing, so Tsubasa goes full Casanova and tells her that she is adorable wearing them, which makes her blush. Then, Tsubasa learns that Minami used to go to the Winter Festival when she was little, which made him expect a lot. She warns him not to expect anything too grand, but when they finally reach the venue, he lights up with awe, surprising her with how easily impressed he is. Tsubasa wants to take a picture of the giant snowman, but Minami pulls him into a selfie with her. Tsubasa notices that Minami smells good, but Minami takes a picture of them, and Tsubasa wants her to erase it because he looks like he is enjoying himself. Then, they go to the food vendor, where Tsubasa buys a corn dog. Minami notices that Tsubasa buys a corn dog for himself, so she quickly takes a bite of it. Tsubasa realizes that he has to eat the rest of the corn dog after Minami takes a bite, which makes him blush because it is an indirect kiss. But Tsubasa locks in and eats it anyway. They make their way through the festival together and eventually sit down with steaming drinks. Minami is relieved that Tsubasa likes the festival because he thinks it is a different place from Tokyo. Then, Minami explains that she was worried that he wouldn't like it because the last time she was there was when she was little, but now she is with Tsubasa, who likes it, which makes her like the city of Hokkaido more. She tells him that she is glad she went to the festival with him, but while talking, she accidentally falls after crossing her legs. But Tsubasa immediately saves her, and they notice they are too close, so they immediately stand up and get embarrassed. While walking home, Tsubasa tells Minami that one day he wants to hang out with her again. So Minami starts teasing him for being desperate, but Tsubasa says he wants them to hang out with others too, which reminds her that she wants to go to the Sapporo Snow Festival one day. Days later, Tsubasa has lunch in class, and then Minami surprises him because she brings something for him, cup noodles. When he asks why, she reminds him of how he reacted to the festival food, like someone tasting flavor for the first time. She prepares the noodles and feeds him a bite herself, delighted by the way he melts at the taste, claiming it's payback for the corn dog incident. Then, Minami sees that Tsubasa brings bento for lunch, which surprises her because it looks like an expensive bento. She immediately takes a picture of it and takes a bite. She is shocked by how good it tastes, so Tsubasa explains that it is made by his grandmother. After lunch, Tsubasa thanks Minami for his first cup noodles, and Minami is shocked that Tsubasa has never had cup noodles before. Tsubasa explains that he has never gone to a festival with a friend, and he never goes to a girl's house, which makes Minami wonder if Tsubasa is rich. Tsubasa thinks that his family isn't very rich, but Minami tells him that he has the aura that sets him apart from others. Tsubasa doesn't know how to explain it, so Minami asks him if she can go to his house that day, which forces Tsubasa to accept because he's hypnotized by her melons. On the way to Tsubasa's house, Minami sees a snow fort on the street, so she goes inside, and Tsubasa notices her rice cakes. Then, Minami pulls him into the snow fort, where both get shy because it is Tsubasa's first time. The experience is intense and tight, which makes Tsubasa want to pull out, but Minami holds him in and starts making happy noises, so he goes outside. Suddenly, he sees his grandma, Kanede, outside, and she hears all of it, forcing Tsubasa to explain. Minami comes outside and teases Tsubasa for his first time in the snow fort, which the grandma misunderstands. Tsubasa introduces his grandmother to Minami, where she immediately compliments her cooking. Kanede asks what their relationship is, and Tsubasa quickly blurts that they're just classmates. Sensing the awkward tension, Kanede ends the encounter and politely leads Tsubasa away, wishing Minami a safe walk home. As they walk off, Tsubasa feels his magical new life in Hokkaido crumbling, only for Minami to pop up beside them again. Questioning why Kanede is using an umbrella, Kanede replies that it's snowing, but Minami insists that umbrellas are dangerous on snowy paths, and explains that her own grandmother suffered a terrible fall once. She warns them about a slippery patch ahead, and even offers to carry their bags for a safer route. Then, she sees they are going to cross black ice, so she guides them to their house herself. While walking, he notices Minami looking hurt, clearly remembering how quickly he denied their relationship. He leans closer and softly assures her that she's important to him, and she blushes red. When they reach his home, Minami's jaw drops at the sight of a mansion, large enough to echo. Minami immediately wants to go home, but Kanede insists she grab a cup of tea first. Tsubasa's grandma realizes Minami is a good girl, so she lets her be. But when she walks into the room, she notices Minami is crazy about Tsubasa's house, which makes her rethink her thoughts. Then she sees Tsubasa laughing, which reminds her of little Tsubasa. It reminds her of the same hopeful smile he wore when he once spoke about wanting to become someone meaningful. Because of that expression, she decides not to ruin the moment. The next day at school, the teacher hands out partner assignments for the upcoming ski trip, and Tsubasa finds that he's been paired with a girl named Sayuri. Tsubasa and his class are on their way to go skiing, which Minami finds exciting. Minami tells Tsubasa to prepare because his eyes will pop out when he sees her skiing skills. Tsubasa can't believe they are going to ski for a full day of school. Then, he notices Minami looking at Sayuri. Minami asks Sayuri if she is excited to ski, but she didn't respond, which Tsubasa finds weird because Minami gets along with everybody. Tsubasa asks Minami if something happened. Minami tells him that she is desperate to be friends with Sayuri, and that they are not fighting because she knows she can be close friends with her. Tsubasa is impressed by how determined Minami is. Minami tells him that Sayuri has style and a beautiful face, which Tsubasa approves. Tsubasa can't believe that a girl like Sayuri exists, and Minami notices that Tsubasa is blushing, so she sulks. At the ski resort, the teacher splits the class into 3 groups, and then he tells Tsubasa that he can practice his skiing skills because Tsubasa doesn't know anything about skiing, so he wants to practice how to walk first. The teacher assigned him to Sayuri because she also couldn't ski. Tsubasa tries to talk to Sayuri, but she is wearing earphones, which makes him realize she doesn't want to be bothered. While practicing, Tsubasa sees Sayuri fall, so he tries to help her, but she insists on standing up on her own, which makes her furious because she doesn't understand why she has to learn how to ski. Suddenly, Minami appears and shows off her skiing skills, which amazes Tsubasa. Minami is warned by her teacher, so she leaves. Tsubasa and Sayuri alone. Suddenly, Sayuri asks Tsubasa if he is dating Minami, but Tsubasa explains that they are just friends. Sayuri explains that Minami is the perfect popular girl in school because she is pretty and outgoing. Tsubasa senses a lonely aura from Sayuri, which makes him realize she is a loner. Later, a kid tries to ski on the expert course, but she is too scared. Minami appears and tells the kid that she will guide her, which encourages the kid, so they both go down the expert course with ease. Meanwhile, the teacher goes to apologize to Tsubasa and Sayuri because he can't give them his time. The teacher reveals that the others already had their lunch break, which makes Tsubasa realize that the teacher forgot about them. Tsubasa and Sayuri go to take a break, where Tsubasa isn't comfortable eating his lunch inside the bus with Sayuri, so he goes inside the resort. He realizes he forgot his chopsticks, so he goes back to the bus to get them, but he is surprised when he sees Sayuri changing. Tsubasa panics and tries to calm down because he has to have a great reason. Tsubasa apologizes to her for barging in because he wants to get his chopsticks. She doesn't respond, so he goes outside instead, but he is stopped by Sayuri. She tells Tsubasa that she wants to explain something, but she has to eat first. Tsubasa and Sayuri eat their lunch inside the bus, where Tsubasa notices Sayuri still hasn't said anything, which makes him realize that Sayuri is going to threaten him. After she finishes her lunch, Sayuri quickly explains that she sweats a lot, which explains why she doesn't like sports. But eventually she starts falling behind in class and she starts avoiding people. So she puts more effort into skiing, but she is so careless that he sees her changing. Sayuri apologizes to Tsubasa for being careless and tells him that she is glad to sit with him because they are just a bunch of loners. Then Tsubasa notices that Sayuri is frustrated because she is hiding something inside her backpack. Tsubasa tells her that she can do what she wants to do, so Sayuri reveals that she is hiding a gaming console, the Shuedo Switch. Sayuri is shocked that Tsubasa doesn't know what it is, so she lets him play it. Tsubasa is a newbie and doesn't know what to do, and then he immediately loses, which Sayuri finds funny. Sayuri shows Tsubasa how to play it, but her melons are pressing against his arm. Sayuri notices Tsubasa blushing and not focusing on the gaming console, which makes her embarrassed because she is a nerd. Sayuri explains that she always tries to talk to people, but they are creeped out by her, so she hides herself. Tsubasa tells her that she is not pathetic, and he is glad he can talk to her, and then he asks her to teach him more about gaming. Without Tsubasa knowing, Sayuri's face turns completely red, so she tells him she has no choice but to teach him. Tsubasa watches Sayuri easily defeat a level in the game, which amazes him. Then he also defeats a level, which he finds a huge achievement, even if it is an easy one. Tsubasa notices that lunch break is over, so they immediately go back to their ski lesson. Tsubasa asks Sayuri to go down a ski course with him, which she accepts. After finishing her lesson, Minami sees Tsubasa and Sayuri going to do a ski course together. Sayuri asks Tsubasa what he will do with skiing, so Tsubasa explains that he challenges himself every day to learn new things because of Minami. Then, Sayuri asks Tsubasa if he has feelings for Minami, which embarrasses him, so he denies any rumors. When they arrive at the top of the course, Tsubasa tells Sayuri that if he can go down safely, he wants Sayuri to talk to Minami because she is trying hard to be her friend. But it isn't just for Minami, as it is also for him because he wants to become friends with her. Sayuri accepts his offer. Then, the two go down the course, where Tsubasa tries teaching Sayuri the basics. Then, Tsubasa manages to stop himself, which makes him excited because he can ski. But he sees Sayuri unable to stop, so he yells at her how to stop, but she can't listen. Tsubasa is ready to catch her, but Minami is also there, so she confronts Sayuri. Minami tells Sayuri that she can just let herself fall into the snow, and she promises it won't hurt. So Minami shows how it is done, and Sayuri copies her. After the two stop, the teacher calls them both because they can get injured. Sayuri wants to come along, but Tsubasa lets her stay because he wants to take responsibility. Then Minami tells Sayuri about Tsubasa, so Sayuri goes to thank Minami, which makes her smile. On the way home, Minami can't stop smiling, but she is jealous because Tsubasa is now closer to Sayuri. Days later, there is a blizzard occurring outside, and Tsubasa wonders if he can go to school because his body isn't supporting him. Then, his grandma tells him that it is a test to prove he is a true citizen of Hokkaido, which encourages him. Tsubasa goes outside and walks to school, but the freezing temperature makes him stuck. Tsubasa knows that his life is over, so he stops trying. Suddenly, there is a car. He sits on the snow and can see Minami in the afterlife, so he closes his eyes. But it turns out to be the real Minami who is worried about him. Minami is furious that Tsubasa walks to school during a blizzard, so she invites him into her car. Tsubasa talks nonsense, so Minami tries to carry him, but he screams in pain. Inside the car, Minami's mother, Mai, tells Tsubasa to feel at home, which shocks him because Minami's mother looks like Minami's sister. Then, Minami tells her mother that Tsubasa is the Tsubasa she always talks about, which makes him shy. Minami's mother then asks him if he has a girlfriend, making him realize that Minami's mother is also a tease. Tsubasa tells her mother that he is single, which her mother finds a waste. Tsubasa wonders what she is trying to say, so Minami's mother tells him that he looks like Minami's father, and it makes her tingly because she finds him suitable for Minami, which makes Minami furious. Tsubasa learns how Minami looks when she is angry, which he doesn't find frightening. Tsubasa wonders if everyone in Hokkaido would go out in the blizzard, but they explain to him that there is no chance of doing that. Minami's mother explains that buying clothes for winter is expensive, so people would rather stay at home. Then, Minami tells her mother that she wants to work to buy winter clothes, but her mother insists she doesn't because her father said so. Suddenly, Tsubasa tells them that they look pretty as they are, which makes them blush and feel embarrassed. When they arrive at school, Minami's mother tells Tsubasa that he can ride with them if there is ever a blizzard. Tsubasa thanks Minami's mother and leaves the car. Before Minami leaves, her mother gives her a thumbs up for her flirty play just then. Minami and Tsubasa walk to school, and her mother notices they are experiencing springtime in the winter. While walking to class, Tsubasa feels his body getting more sore. Suddenly, they see Sayuri also just arriving, so Minami immediately hugs her, but Sayuri dodges her because her body is also sore. Tsubasa goes to talk about their sore bodies with Sayuri, which makes Minami jealous. In class, Minami notices Tsubasa already has his own blanket and stuff. Tsubasa explains that he doesn't want to borrow hers all the time, but Minami doesn't mind. Then, Minami opens her jacket, which surprises Tsubasa because he can see through her clothes. Minami shows him that she has a warm sticker that keeps her warm, and then she gives some to Tsubasa. He thanks Minami and gets a strange feeling because he never imagined getting along with a Gyaru like Minami, especially since it would have been unthinkable back in Tokyo. Then, Minami tells him that she has to buy new lipstick, so he asks her if she wants to buy one after school. Suddenly, Minami is surprised that Tsubasa uses a Hokkaido dialect, which makes her happy because he learned it from her. Minami tells him that he is just like a Hokkaido local, but Sayuri doesn't agree because there are a lot of locals who aren't like Minami. Sayuri and Minami argue about their local preferences, but Tsubasa learns that it depends on the location. Then, Tsubasa confronts Sayuri about her gaming console, and she asks Tsubasa to do it with her, which makes her shy because it could translate to other things. Tsubasa tells her that he wants to do it with her, which makes her blush because Tsubasa is too innocent. Then, Tsubasa tells Minami to join them to play games, and Minami looks at Sayuri and asks if she can join. Sayuri accepts her into the group and tells them to go to Tobu after school. Tsubasa is amazed by the Tobu Mall because it is different from the ones in Tokyo, and then the girls show him around the mall. Tsubasa explains that it is more spacious than Tokyo, and then they continue to play Sayuri's video game together, where Minami completes a mission. While Tsubasa goes to the toilet, Minami asks Sayuri to check out cosmetics together, and proceeds to call her Siren, which surprises her. Then they agree that they will share some of them, which makes Sayuri tell Minami the truth, that she is a nice girl, which makes her blush. After Tsubasa returns from the toilet, they immediately go to check cosmetics, where Tsubasa chooses for them. After buying them, Tsubasa notices it's getting dark outside, so he suggests they go home. Before they went home, the trio went to take a photo booth picture together. Later at night, Tsubasa does his homework and forgets when it is due, so he asks Minami on the phone. Tsubasa sends a message to her and is mesmerized by the photo they took together. Then, he notices that Minami responds quickly, but it is a picture of her in the bath. Minami wants to see Tsubasa's reaction, but he gives her a boring response, so she takes a selfie. But Tsubasa gives her another boring response. But in reality, Tsubasa is panicking because he wants to focus on studying. Suddenly, Minami calls him, so he answers, and is surprised when Minami turns on the camera. Minami doesn't care because she already gets his reaction. His face is bright red. Tsubasa tries to study while calling Minami, but they start talking about how their families take baths. Then Minami tells him that her family used to go to a hot spring, and Tsubasa wants to go there, so Minami tries to tease him. But Tsubasa is locked in, and Minami finds it boring. Then Tsubasa tells Minami that he is doing his homework, which shocks Minami because she hasn't done it. Minami accidentally slips in the bathtub and her phone almost falls into the water, but she manages to catch it. At the same time, Tsubasa is also shocked because Minami is surprised, so he goes to check on her if she is okay, but her camera is already off. Then Minami asks Tsubasa if he saw it, but Tsubasa doesn't see anything and explains what happened, so Minami immediately hangs up, which leaves Tsubasa confused. Minami quickly gets out of the bathtub and realizes she shouldn't do things she shouldn't be doing. Then her mother walks in and notices something is wrong with Minami. So Minami tells her mother that she feels a little lightheaded. The next day, Minami doesn't submit her homework on time and gets in trouble with the teacher. Tsubasa and his class go to karaoke, where Tsubasa blushes because Minami can sing, and she keeps staring at him. Tsubasa and Sayuri are amazed by Minami's singing skills and get the feeling that she is a party girl. Then, Tsubasa reveals that he doesn't go to karaoke a lot and only goes there with his family. Sayuri tells him that she always does solo karaoke, which shocks Tsubasa and makes Sayuri embarrassed. Sayuri, Tsubasa, and their friends struggle to pick a song, and so Minami takes her chance and chooses one for them. After singing together, the girls and the guys separate into different rooms, where they talk about what's coming. While posting a story on social media, Minami tells everyone that Valentine's Day is near. Everyone is surprised and acts like they don't need chocolate, which makes Tsubasa wonder. Suddenly, Takayumi tells Minami that he wants chocolate from her. Tsubasa thinks there is something between them, but every Valentine's Day, Minami always makes chocolate for her friends, which makes Tsubasa relieved and confused. Then, the girls ask Sayuri if she is going to make chocolates, but she finds it expensive and would rather use the money for her hobbies, which makes everyone laugh because her response is exactly what they expect. Then, Tsubasa tells them that he has never gotten chocolate from anyone except his family, which shocks everyone because they thought Tsubasa was the guy. After karaoke, Tsubasa is happy because he talks to many people. Suddenly, Sayuri and Minami both want to tell him something at the same time. Minami is relieved that they enjoyed karaoke and says she will invite them again next time. Then, Sayuri realizes she doesn't actually have anything to talk about with Tsubasa, so they decide to go home. While walking home, Sayuri looks at the internet because she wonders how to find out what kind of chocolate Tsubasa likes, which makes her worried. The next day, Sayuri is home playing a game. She sees the date and realizes she still has weeks before Valentine's Day, but she doesn't care and focuses on the event in her game. Eventually, Sayuri goes to the shopping center and looks for chocolates. But Minami is also there, which surprises her, so she tells Minami she is there to buy cosmetics. Minami has a feeling that Sayuri is really there for chocolates, but when she asks Sayuri to accompany her to buy cosmetics, Sayuri can't resist and follows her. After buying the cosmetics, Minami remembers that she has to buy ingredients for her homemade chocolate. Then she learns that Sayuri likes ganache-type chocolates. Before she leaves, Sayuri stops Minami and tells her that she wants to come with her for chocolate shopping because she wants to make one for Minami, which makes Minami excited. After buying the ingredients, Minami tells Sayuri to call her if she has problems making chocolates. Then, Sayuri asks Minami if she is going to give Tsubasa a special chocolate, but Minami doesn't understand. After all, they are friends and nothing more. The same as Sayuri with Tsubasa, but Minami reminds Sayuri that she is just his video game friend. Both apologize and go home, where they each start thinking about whether they should give Tsubasa chocolate or not. Meanwhile, Tsubasa is studying for the finals, but he also sees that Valentine's Day is tomorrow, which makes him panic, so he continues studying. Later at night, Sayuri is ready to make homemade chocolate, and then Minami suddenly texts her. Sayuri tells Minami she is still awake, so Minami immediately calls her, which excites Sayuri. Sayuri doesn't mind being on call with Minami because she wants a tutorial from her. Minami tells Sayuri what to do to make chocolates, which shocks her, because Sayuri is fast. Then, Minami reveals that she broke her own record for making chocolates. She makes 70 for this year's Valentine's, and without Sayuri knowing, Minami is making a heart-shaped chocolate for someone. Then, Minami asks Sayuri if she is making chocolate for someone other than her, which catches Sayuri off guard. Suddenly, Minami accidentally drops a bottle of soy sauce, which drenches all the chocolates she made. Sayuri wonders what happened, so Minami explains everything and immediately hangs up, wishing her luck. This surprises Sayuri because Minami can be so nice even in a crisis. The next day, Tsubasa goes to school and has a feeling that someone will put Valentine's chocolate in his locker. But when he opens it, there is nothing inside, which doesn't disappoint him. Tsubasa goes to class and Minami immediately welcomes him and gives him a bar of chocolate, but it isn't homemade. Sayuri also arrives, so Minami gives her a store-bought chocolate too, which Tsubasa finds weird because he notices Minami's eyes are red. Then Minami gives her store-bought chocolate to Takayumi, but he is disappointed because Minami didn't make it herself. Takayumi goes outside and gets more chocolates from other girls, but he is confronted by Sayuri, who threatens him because he was disappointed in Minami. After class, Sayuri remembers Minami's wish and knows something is wrong with her. She goes to confront Minami but sees her cleaning a classroom with Tsubasa. After putting away cleaning tools, Tsubasa is surprised when Minami suddenly starts crying. He asks her what happened, and Minami reveals everything about the chocolates she made, which Tsubasa understands. Minami tells him that she feels she has disappointed her friends, which makes her sad. She also wanted Sayuri to try her chocolate, but because she was thoughtless, she got punished by her mother for not cleaning up the mess. Suddenly, Tsubasa plays the piano for her because it is the only thing he can do. Minami and Sayuri hear the song Tsubasa is playing, which makes Minami realize that Tsubasa is playing the song she sang at karaoke. Tsubasa tells Minami that he learns piano, so he learned her song, which surprises her. Then, Tsubasa tells her that she always makes him excited, so he plays her song because he wants her to be excited too. Minami immediately wipes her tears and smiles at Tsubasa for stopping them. Suddenly, Sayuri appears and says she wants to give chocolate to one of them. Tsubasa is shocked because he thinks the chocolate is for him, and Minami tries to leave them alone because she already knows what will happen. To her surprise, Sayuri gives the chocolate to Minami, which makes her happy. Meanwhile, Tsubasa wants to hide in a deep hole because he thought it was for him, but Sayuri also makes one for him, so the trio goes to eat chocolate together. Before class is over, the teacher reminds the students that the final exam is next week and they have to be serious about it. Tsubasa is ready for any exam and he only has to review everything one last time. Then he sees that Minami is not a big fan of exams because she keeps bragging about them. Minami wonders if Tsubasa loves exams. Tsubasa tells her that he feels relieved after doing them because he knows all his hard work will pay off. Tsubasa thinks he has just said something boring, but Minami likes what he says, which makes her excited to study. So she asks Tsubasa to come to her house because she is having a study party. After school, Minami brings Sayuri with them because she wants more people in her. Minami tells Sayuri that she is going to study hard because she is worried about the finals, and they have Tsubasa with them so he can be their private tutor. When they arrive at Minami's house, Tsubasa and Sayuri learn that no one is there and that Minami has a little sister. Then, Minami tells them to go to her room first because she is going to prepare drinks. Tsubasa tells Sayuri that he has been to Minami's house before, but he has never gone to her room. Sayuri is surprised and calls him a sneaky pervert because he once watched a movie with Minami, who fell asleep. When the two go inside Minami's room, they are surprised by how much it reflects Minami's personality. Tsubasa has never been inside a girl's room, so he becomes nervous because he imagines Minami changing. Sayuri notices and calls him a pervert. The trio starts their study session where Minami serves them a soda that Tsubasa has never seen before. He likes it a lot because it is perfect for a party. Then they begin studying with a quiz. Tsubasa and Sayuri get a history question, and both answer it easily, making Minami embarrassed. Then it is Minami's turn to ask a question, but she can't, so she tells them a random fact about Katami, which surprises them even though it has no connection to the school subject. Hours later, Sayuri and Minami are exhausted, which amazes Tsubasa because they work hard. Then, Tsubasa notices it is past his curfew, so he immediately goes downstairs to head home. After tying his shoes, he steps outside and opens the door, but Minami's mother opens it at the same time. Tsubasa slips and accidentally falls onto Minami's mother's melons. Eventually, Minami's mother takes Tsubasa to her car because she wants to drive him home. On the road, Minami's mother learns that he came to study, and then she tells him that Minami was depressed on Valentine's Day, but she came home with a big smile that day because she was happy that Tsubasa played a piano song for her, which made her mother relieved. She thanks Tsubasa for caring about Minami. When they arrive at Tsubasa's house, Minami's mother gives him a cold drink before he leaves, which makes him blush. After she leaves, Tsubasa suddenly notices his grandma behind him, furious because he broke a rule. The next day, Tsubasa is afraid of his grandma, traumatized by her anger, but she still gives him mercy and a last warning. Before he goes to school, his grandma tells him to throw out the trash, so he does. Suddenly, Tsubasa sees a pink-haired girl at the trash bin, which makes him blush because she looks cute. Tsubasa is mesmerized and wonders why she is holding a stick. Suddenly, the girl shoos the birds that are in the trash bin, which leaves Tsubasa confused. At class, Minami is surprised that Tsubasa saw Rena, the pink-haired girl, as the first thing in the morning. Minami tells him that she adores Rena because she has won the beauty contest 2 years in a. Then, Minami asks Tsubasa to come to her house to study again. But Tsubasa refuses and tells her that he has to study alone until the finals. Tsubasa doesn't want to tell her that his grandma is angry because he doesn't want them to worry. Minami is fine with it because she knows Sayuri will come with her. But Sayuri also refuses because all they did was talk after Tsubasa left, which leaves Minami to study alone. At lunch break, Minami and Sayuri eat together, but they notice Tsubasa is not with them, so they let him be. Meanwhile, Tsubasa studies alone at the library, which he finds great because he can learn a lot there. Then he hears someone snoring. To his surprise, it is Rena. He can't stop staring at her because she is beautiful. Suddenly, she wakes up and immediately sees him, which makes him panic. Tsubasa tries to act like he didn't see anything, but she is already standing next to him, which surprises him. Rena tells him she is part of the library committee, and Tsubasa notices she is worried that he caught her sleeping. But Tsubasa doesn't mind, which makes her relieved. Then, Rena notices that Tsubasa has an amazing posture, which makes her wonder if he works out. Tsubasa continues studying, so she decides to leave him alone. But before she goes, she tells Tsubasa the correct answer in his book, which surprises him, though he thinks it is just luck. Tsubasa goes home and sees his grandma waiting at the entrance for him. His grandma tells him that she knows he is having troubles, so she wants to test his mental strength. Tsubasa and his grandma have a tea ceremony, but then someone rings the bell. Tsubasa goes to check and is surprised to see his next-door neighbor, Rena. She is there to give a bulletin, but then she realizes Tsubasa is wearing traditional Japanese clothes. Tsubasa's grandma notices he is taking too long, so she checks what he is doing. To her surprise, Rena is hugging Tsubasa, which makes him freeze. Then Rena apologizes to his grandma and tells her that she fell and Tsubasa caught her. His grandma loves Rena's attitude, so she excuses her. Tsubasa doesn't expect his grandma to adore Rena so quickly. Then his grandma tells him to go back to the tea ceremony, but she notices Tsubasa still eyeing Rena, so she yells at him. His grandma finally realizes that making his guard go down and doing a tea ceremony won't prepare him mentally, so she tells him that he must be in the top 10 in the finals. If he isn't, she will send him back to Tokyo. The next morning, on his way to school, Tsubasa admits to himself how much time he has been losing because of the girls. The thought pushes him to commit to his studies with greater focus. But just as he makes this promise, Rena appears and says she has been waiting for him. She notices his sad expression and wonders if she has caused trouble for him. He tells her his only concern is schoolwork, and she apologizes for the earlier incident and offers to tutor him if needed. While he appreciates her kindness, he politely declines, but she takes offense, assuming he sees her as an idiot who has a face card. Feeling bad for how it sounded, he explains his aim to earn a top ranking in the exams, and she assures him it will be no issue, casually revealing that she has always been #1 in the academy. Remembering how easily she solved his problem in the library the day before, he realizes her skill and eagerly asks her to be his tutor. She agrees after seeing his determination and instructs him to meet her in a storage room at the library so she can tutor him in private. Elsewhere, Minami and her friend Erika complain about always having to study. As they prepare to head back to class, Erika spots Tsubasa approaching the entrance and points him out. Minami, feeling stressed, decides to release her frustration on him, but then she catches him with Rena. She freezes, overhearing Rena telling him to meet at their hidden study spot. But instead of being jealous of the new girl, Minami confronts him about keeping a relationship with Rena a secret, reminding him that she is one of Rena's biggest admirers. Later, Minami invites him to study together again, but he declines, leaving him feeling guilty for spending no time with her. But remembering Kanede's warning, he heads straight to the library for his study session with Rena. Inside the storage room, Rena asks which subject he wants to start with, and although he asks to start with mathematics. They study until the school's closing announcement, and when he asks if they can continue until the exams, she asks why he is so determined to pass. He explains that his relationship with some of the people dear to him depends on his success, and hearing that, she agrees to keep tutoring him, but on the condition that he take her on a date if he reaches his goal. A few nights later, Minami tries to enjoy her favorite television show, but her sister Momoko reminds her of the upcoming exams. Minami admits she has no motivation to study, and Mai tells her not to force it if she isn't feeling up to it, handing her a soda instead. While rushing to pour herself a cup, Minami asks Mai if she knows anything about her strange heartbeat lately, but their mom teases her that she might be either in love or going to have a cardiac arrest. Meanwhile, Tsubasa finishes an online study session with Rena and thanks her for the week's help, and she reassures him that their promised date will make it all worth it. After the call, he tries to squeeze in more revision before bed, but Kanede interrupts with a snack and a question about his readiness, and he tells her he's ready. On the first day of exams, Minami is relieved to finally stop studying, while Sayuri grows even more anxious after another night lost to gaming. Hours later, everyone finishes, and Minami decides to try the library for a change. She spots Tsubasa heading in the same direction and decides to join him, only to lose sight of him completely. The next morning, she tells him what happened, but he insists she must be imagining things, believing that keeping his lessons with Rena a secret is the only way to achieve his aim. A week later, Minami is disappointed with her score, while Sayuri scores higher than 100 students. They look around for Tsubasa to ask for his score, but realize he has already gone. Meanwhile, Tsubasa tells Rena that he placed 3rd and thanks her for everything. Curious, he asks for her score and apologizes in advance if tutoring him made her lose her top position. But she calmly boasts that she is still top dog. But with his goal met, she reminds him of their date. That Saturday, Tsubasa tells Kanade he is going out with a friend, but when he leaves, he ends up arriving early. But then, Rena appears looking majestic, and explains she also came early out of excitement for their date. They set off together, and in the middle of their walk, Mai spots them and sends Minami a message. Rena notices Tsubasa's gaze and asks if something is wrong with her makeup, but he tells her she looks amazing in a kimono. She thanks him and asks where they're going, only for him to admit he has nothing planned since he knows little about Hokkaido. She insists she doesn't mind as long as she is with him. Meanwhile, Minami opens her mother's message and is shocked to learn that Tsubasa is on a date with another woman. Afterward, Minami calls up Sayuri to join her at the mall to stalk Rena and Tsubasa on their date. Sayuri wonders if Minami has noticed they are clearly on a date, but Minami shows her the text from Mai and explains that she came here only out of curiosity, wanting to see Rena without her uniform and in a kimono. When Sayuri asks why she was invited, Minami says she thought it would interest her too. Sayuri admits she's a little curious, and when the couple walks away, Sayuri pulls Minami along so they can keep following them. At the arcade, Rena spots a teddy bear she has always wanted in a crane machine and points it out for Tsubasa to get it. He acts confident and offers to win it for her, but after several failed attempts, Sayuri grows frustrated and wants to step in and show them how it's done, but Minami holds her back. Suddenly, Tsubasa manages to win a small doll instead of the big one. He hands it to Rena, and even though it isn't the one she wanted, she thanks him warmly and promises to treasure it because of his effort, which flusters Tsubasa. Seeing that, Minami tells Sayuri how much she admires the way Tsubasa tries to make others happy, despite being the new guy who still has to adjust. Deep in admiration, Minami admits she wishes she could be like that, but quickly changes her wording to avoid revealing too much. However, Sayuri doesn't notice as she's too busy trying to win more toys. When Rena and Tsubasa leave for a movie, Minami and Sayuri decide to see one too. Inside the movie theater, Rena and Tsubasa watch a movie about a hardworking woman who climbs her career ladder but struggles to succeed, despite giving everything she has. Halfway through the film, Rena starts crying, surprising Tsubasa. After the movie, they sit at a table and Tsubasa asks if she often cries at films, but she explains that the protagonist's life mirrors her own, as she is also someone who spends years proving herself so others respect her. She admits it makes her wonder whether her life has meaning without achievements, and Tsubasa tells her that many people see her as an inspiration to be better, even if they never say it. The thought surprises her, as she always assumed people focused only on her looks and seemingly perfect image instead of her hard work, but he reassures her that her work ethic earns respect, even if unspoken. When Rena notes that they are alike in some ways, she suddenly asks if he has a girlfriend, wanting to know if she has a chance. At that moment, Minami and Sayuri finish their movie, and as they take the escalator down, they spot the pair sitting together. Tsubasa tells Rena he is single, and Rena asks if he gets lonely because of it, pointing out that no one would move to a freezing village and be happy without someone special. Tsubasa explains that his special friends, Minami and Sayuri, have made his life in Hokkaido far better than his life in Tokyo, and meeting Rena has been another bright spot. Hearing that makes Rena smile, and Tsubasa asks if she'd like to spend time with him and the girls in the future. When Rena agrees, Minami and Sayuri pop out from hiding and suggest they start right away. Realizing they were eavesdropping, Tsubasa asks what they heard, and Minami claims they only heard Rena agreeing to be friends. Rena asks who they are, and Tsubasa introduces them as his friends, but Minami complains that he left out how important they are. Watching their interaction, Rena begins to understand why he values them. Minami then properly introduces herself and asks to shake Rena's hand. When Rena agrees, Minami gently grabs her hand and nearly loses her composure. Unimpressed, Sayuri tells her to calm down, but Rena starts to see the warmth in their friendship and expresses how she now understands why Tsubasa sees them as precious. Suddenly, Mai pops up, surprising them and offers to treat them to yakiniku, the food of Hokkaido, after she has had a successful day of work. They go to a yakiniku joint, and seeing Minami falling in love with the fatty meat, Sayuri and Rena get curious. When they also take their first bite, they react as if it's the best meat they've ever had. Mai prepares a serving for Tsubasa, and after one bite, he feels his affection for Hokkaido grow even stronger. Mai jokes about him having a date with the most beautiful chicks in the area, and he acts oblivious, so she points out that Rena and Sayuri look like goddesses. Minami, offended that she wasn't mentioned, still agrees and adds that Rena's brains are just as impressive given she topped the school again. Sayuri calls her lucky for being both pretty and smart, but Minami insists it's all due to hard work and dedication. Rena grows emotional, and when Tsubasa says more people notice her efforts than she realizes, she thanks him for making her aware. Minutes later, they prepare to leave, but Minami stops Tsubasa to ask if he is dating Rena. When he says no, she pulls him closer and tells him to be ready for a real date with her during spring break. Days later at school, while Sayuri struggles with the cold, Minami is excited, reminding her that White Day is coming, the time to return Valentine's gifts. Sayuri shrugs, saying no one really takes it seriously, but Minami is convinced Tsubasa is planning something big after their chocolates, which excites them both. Their attention shifts when they spot Tsubasa heading up the stairs. Minami tries teasing him about returning their chocolates, but when he admits he has been thinking and planning for days, she feels disappointed he didn't react, flustered. Just then, Matsuo intercepts Tsubasa, and he confesses that he wants to fix things with Minami after the hurtful things he said to her on Valentine's Day, and how Sayuri now hates him for it. He tells Matsuo that a sincere apology will likely smooth things over, and maybe even change Sayuri's opinion of him. Matsuo compliments him for his maturity, thanks him for the advice, and rushes off to prepare. Later at home, Tsubasa asks his grandma to help him make his favorite childhood snack, homemade milk rice crackers for White Day. When she asks why it matters so much, he explains that it's the perfect excuse to bring smiles to the people he cares about, and Kanata smiles at that. Then on White Day, Matsuo finds Minami alone, apologizes sincerely, and gives her a box of pie. He begs her to stay. Friends, and she accepts, thanks him, and admits she had forgotten the incident. Suddenly, Tsubasa and Sayuri appear, explaining they were on standby in case the apology went badly, and Sayuri decides to forgive Matsuo too, so he gives her a box of pie as well. Seeing the mood, Tsubasa hands out his homemade milk rice crackers to repay their Valentine's chocolates. Matsuo is grateful for the gift from a friend, while the girls blush and glow from receiving something handmade from Tsubasa. Later at dinner, Tsubasa thanks his grandma for helping with the rice crackers and asks for the recipe so he can send it to Minami. She agrees, and as he takes a picture of the recipe, he receives a text from Matsuo who invites him to go fishing that weekend. Tsubasa hesitates, having never fished before, but eventually agrees, thinking it's a good chance to try something new and make a new friend. A few days later, Matsuo and his father take Tsubasa to a popular fishing lake crowded with people. The boys go off alone, and on the way, Minami suddenly pops out from a tent. She explains that her family often fishes together, though they already retreated to the car after hours without a single catch. Matsuo invites her to join them, and Tsubasa agrees. With experience on his side, Matsuo sets up the fishing spot while Tsubasa watches. Once everything is ready, they hype themselves up, but an hour passes with no fish. Minami suggests they might have chosen a bad spot, so Matsuo goes to check on his father, leaving Tsubasa and Minami alone. Tsubasa asks if she's bored, but Minami says she's fine, and points out it has been a while since they've been alone. She slides her chair closer to show him a makeup tutorial to pass the time, and Tsubasa pretends to understand what she's talking about, but he compliments how good her makeup always looks. She asks if he's been paying that much attention, and he denies it, saying instead that he respects her dedication to looking her best. The comment flutters through her chest, and she shares her dream of helping people feel beautiful, and even studying makeup abroad someday. He calls her amazing, making her blush harder. She leans in close to examine his skin, and asks if she can do his makeup. He tries to pull away, but she instead applies her lip balm to him, holding him steady. He imagines it as their first kiss, just as Matsuo returns, announcing a better fishing spot. There, they catch plenty of fish and fry them up. After Tsubasa takes his first bite and is blown away by the flavor, Matsuo brings out homemade treats to make the meal even better. The very next day, Tsubasa falls sick as the cold finally catches up to him. Sayuri texts him to check on him, and they agree to play games once he's recovered. Then, Kanade brings him porridge and mentions that Rena came by with water, and left a note wishing him well. As he gets worse, Minami suddenly appears, saying Kanade asked her to look after him, and her beauty up close makes his blood flow somewhere lower. She then checks his temperature by pressing her forehead to his and gives him a mint to ease his breathing. Then she apologizes for getting him sick, blaming it on making him fish too long, and says she'll do anything he wants. Hearing that, his mind wanders to places where only Johnny Sins has been when he was an astronaut, and he collapses back into bed. She covers him and asks if he needs anything else. Half asleep, he grips her arm and mutters for her to stay beside him, so she holds his hand until he drifts off to sleep. The next morning, his fever is gone. He texts her, thanking her for visiting and asking if anything happened, since he can't remember clearly. She replies that nothing happened, but privately remembers holding his hand and wishing the moment had lasted longer. A week later, the snow starts to slow down, and for the first time since moving to Hokkaido, Tsubasa can see the road, ahead without snow blurring his vision. On his way to school, he's surprised to find Minami waiting at the intersection, but considering how far her house is, he realizes she came all this way just for him. The moment she spots him, she hurries over, grabs his arm, and complains about being left to wait in the cold. When he asks why she didn't tell him in advance, she says she wanted to catch him off guard. She checks if he's still feeling feverish, and he explains that Kanade has been forcing him to sleep early to keep him from getting sick again. Minami praises Kanade's strictness, but admits she wanted to spend more time with him. His heart skips a beat, and she notices it immediately. To change the subject, he brings up the weather, mentioning that cherry blossoms are probably blooming in Tokyo by now. They chat about the seasons, but when he mentions the upcoming reassignment of school classes, Minami's mood dips. She recalls a rumor that the school sorts students by academic performance and worries that they might be separated and that he might stop talking to her. She admits that this was the real reason she came so early to meet him. So to reassure her, he promises to visit her even if they end up in different classes. Embarrassed by his own smoothness, he's relieved to see her smile again, and she uses the chance to tease him all the way to school. But when they arrive, they find out they've been placed in the same class again. Tsubasa can't hide his excitement, and Minami lights up even more when Sayuri arrives, also assigned to their class. Just then, Minami notices that Fuyuki has a new hairstyle, and when Tsubasa compliments her, Fuyuki freezes in shock, blushing hard. Matsuo joins them next, thrilled to spend another school year together. In the hallway, Sayuri tells Tsubasa about a new game she's been playing. When Matsuo says he plays it too, they dive into a conversation about video games while Minami watches from the side. But Tsubasa calls her over to keep her from being left out. Later, their new homeroom teacher, Misa, introduces herself and announces that the class needs a president. Matsuo immediately nominates Tsubasa, and both Minami and Sayuri support the idea, saying he's responsible and reliable. Misa asks if he's willing, and when he says he'll give it a try, she makes it official. When she asks for volunteers for vice president, Minami raises her hand without hesitation, and with no competition, the two of them become the class leadership team. That night, Tsubasa calls Sayuri for a gaming session. He mentions he's been eager to use his console, and when she asks if he's always had one, he says he saved up for weeks to buy it. She asks why he's always trying new things, and he says it's the only way to experience more in life, and he's glad she asked him to play with her. Once they log in, she gives him a tour of the mansion she's been building for weeks. Flustered, she admits he's the first person she's ever shown it to. And Tsubasa, feeling honored, shows her his tiny starter hut in return, joking that it might take him forever to reach her level. She offers to help him progress faster, leading him to a mountain where they spend hours gathering resources and building together. When she suggests a break, he thanks her and compliments her skills, but she waves it off, calling herself the most boring one in their friend group. She even says Matsu was braver for nominating him as class president. But before she can put herself down any further, Tsubasa stops her and reminds her how much she's changed since they first met. Thinking it over, she realizes he's been the reason for that, but she keeps that to herself. The next day, Tsubasa and Minami stay after school to sort the class printouts. As the sun sets and the building falls quiet, Tsubasa starts feeling a little uneasy, but Minami teases him, pointing out that technically they could be doing anything they wanted in the classroom, breaking every desk there. Flustered, he changes the subject and thanks her for becoming vice president, admitting that her decision surprised him. She asks if he thinks she's unreliable, and he clarifies that it's just not something she usually seems interested in. Minami admits that he's right, but says that the real reason she volunteered is that she wants to be close to him. He tries to calm down her nerves after hearing that, but Minami steps closer, insisting she's not joking. Before the plot can progress, Misa suddenly appears to check on them and thank them for their work, taking the printouts off their hands. Once they head home, Tsubasa notices Minami's mood shift again, where she seems quieter. Then, Minami brings up the upcoming Golden Week and tells him to keep one whole day free, as she has something important to tell him. As she walks away, Tsubasa is left stunned by how serious she sounded, and he can't stop, wondering what she plans to say. On the day of Golden Week, Minami wakes up early and puts on her best makeup, determined to look her best for Tsubasa. Meanwhile, Tsubasa has just arrived at the train station and waits nervously, wondering what Minami wants to say and what might happen between them. Before long, Mai drives Minami to the station, tells her to call if anything happens, and compliments how beautiful she looks before leaving. Minami soon spots Tsubasa and apologizes for making him come out so early, but he tells her it's fine, as he couldn't have slept in anyway. When he asks if their destination is far, she says it's a secret, but admits it will take a couple of hours. Seeing his surprise, she promises the time will pass quickly, but only minutes into the ride, she's already fallen asleep, reminding him of the first time he visited her house and dozed off watching a movie. He spends the ride looking out at the countryside, thinking about how long he's known about Minami from afar. Then she wakes up and the sunlight hits her face in a way that makes his heart race. Without thinking, he blurts out that she's beautiful, and her bright smile makes him realize he said it out loud, so he quickly apologizes. But she tells him not to worry about it. When they arrive, she explains they need to take a bus, but suggests a short detour first. They rent bikes, and she eagerly leads the way into town with Tsubasa following close behind. They find a small restaurant and order bean paste buns, savoring every bite and praising the taste. As Tsubasa takes another mouthful, he notices her staring at him. He asks if he spilled something, but she says she just likes the way his face looks when he enjoys food. Embarrassed, he turns away and she begs him to face her again so she can look at him more. He counters by saying that she makes every meal look better just by being there. And she gets flustered for a moment but recovers quickly, offering to feed him since he seems to enjoy eating with her so much. Later, they browse a shop where she asks for his opinion on 2 hairpins. After he chooses one, she hurries off to buy it. While waiting, he becomes interested in a red bracelet on display. Afterwards, she blindfolds him and guides him into a park full of cherry blossoms, completely unaware that she's pressing her plots against his back as she leads him. When she uncovers his eyes, he's overwhelmed by the sight, and she tells him it's a cherry blossom park and reminds him that he once said he wanted to see them in bloom. When he turns away, she worries the pink might be too much and asks if he wants to leave. Instead, he wipes tears from his eyes and says he never imagined seeing something so beautiful in Hokkaido. She gets overjoyed and immediately pulls him along to explore deeper into the park and take photos at the highest point. While admiring the scenery, she shares that she visited the park once with her family years ago and never appreciated it back then. But now, with a clearer mind, it feels different. Tsubasa wonders aloud what the park will look like years from now and what they'll look like too. She laughs, notices an elderly couple taking photos, and asks them to take one of her and Tsubasa. After a few clumsy shots, they finally get one good picture. She then spots a shrine up ahead, and they climb the steps. She mentions that it's popular with local women who pray there for fertility. Embarrassed, she tries to explain, but his flustered reaction makes her tease him even more. She says they should come back in a few years to take another photo in the same place. The idea confuses him at first, but when she explains that it would be a great memory if they return in the future, he agrees. The thought makes him wonder how their relationship might grow if they stay close over the years. Elsewhere, Rena finishes a study session and glances at the teddy bear Tsubasa won for her, wondering how he's doing. She plays with her dog until someone knocks on the door. A neighbor hands her a community bulletin, which she decides to use as an excuse to visit Tsubasa, only to be surprised when a man named Ozora answers the door and says Tsubasa isn't home. Back at the park, Minami sees people riding go-karts and realizes Tsubasa has never tried it before. They grab snacks before she speeds around the track like a pro, then watches him drive like a nervous beginner. The rest of the day is spent trying different activities before finishing with ice cream. As she gushes over the flavor, he takes a photo of her and is taken aback by how good she looks. When she asks for it, he sends it, only to see that she's already set their picture as her profile photo, visible to anyone who looks. His mind spins, but he convinces himself she's just teasing. Finally, mustering his courage, he takes out the gift he's been carrying, the red promise bracelet. He gives it to her, saying he thinks it would look good on her. She asks him to put it on, and when he does, he's gentle, and they lock eyes for a long, quiet moment. Before he can say anything, she wonders aloud what people might think if they saw them together. He wants to say they'd look like a couple, but he loses his nerve and instead says people would think they're close friends. Her smile falters, and he realizes he just fumbled hard. Frustration hits him, as he hates how cowardly he becomes around the person he loves, so he decides to confess his feelings to her. But before he can speak, she tells him she's leaving Hokkaido in a week to study abroad, and that leaves him stunned. She explains that meeting him gave her the courage to chase her dream, and she's been searching for the right moment to tell him. As she thanks him again, he pulls her into a hug. She tries to hold back her tears, but freezes when she notices his tears falling first. A staff member eventually approaches them and politely informs them that the facility is about to close. Realizing they're running out of time, they rush toward the bus stop, hoping to catch the last ride out. But before they even reach it, the same staff member hurries after them and explains that the final bus has already departed. Minami checks the app on her phone and insists there should still be one left, but the staff member gently corrects her that she's been looking at the weekday schedule, not the weekend or holiday timetable, which runs entirely differently. With no more buses available, the reality sinks in. Minami immediately tries calling Mai for help, pacing nervously as the line rings, while Tsubasa phones his father to explain their situation. His father asks for the exact distance, and after a moment of silence, he proposes a solution so unexpected that Tsubasa freezes in disbelief. When Tsubasa relays it to Minami that his father is willing to cover the cost of a hotel owned by a friend, she blinks in shock, but after thinking it over, she slowly nods and agrees that staying the night is their only option now. Once they're shown to their room later that evening, Minami laughs a little to herself, remembering the time their group joked about having a giant sleepover. She says this is probably the closest she'll ever get to that fantasy, considering the situation. Tsubasa glances at the clock and reminds her that they should grab food before the nearby restaurants close. They hurry downstairs and end up devouring more dishes than they expected, grateful that Tsubasa's dad is the one footing the bill. Back in the room, Minami asks if she can bathe first. Hearing this sends Tsubasa's heart into panic mode as he suddenly recognizes how dangerously intimate the situation is. While she showers, he tries to reel his mind back from wandering off the edge, imagining her stepping out of the bathroom looking unreal, looking like temptation itself, tempting him with things he shouldn't even think about. To distract himself, he switches on the TV only to find a program featuring the very cherry blossom park they visited. It reminds him that Minami is leaving in only a week, and the sadness hits him all over again. Before he realizes it, he drifts off to sleep. When Minami finishes her bath, she steps out to find him asleep on top of the blankets. She moves closer, kneels beside him, and watches him quietly for a moment. Then she leans in and places a soft, gentle kiss on his lips, one he doesn't wake up for, and sets a handwritten note beside him before silently taking her things and slipping out of the room. Days pass. Sayuri sits in a cafe, confused and a little irritated that Tsubasa hasn't logged in to play games with her recently. She's soon approached by Asuka, someone she knows from years back, along with another girl named Hina. Asuka tries to drag her to karaoke, but Sayuri refuses to do anything that isn't gaming-related. Hina jokingly asks if she already has someone special she prefers spending time with, and Asuka teases her about having a boyfriend. Sayuri is about to shut them down when she notices Minami entering the cafe, pulling a travel bag behind her. At the same time, Rena stops by Tsubasa's home with extra dumplings, only for his father to explain that Tsubasa hasn't been out of his room in days since returning from the trip. Back in the cafe, Sayuri sits with Minami, and Minami shares what happened during her day at the park, and she confirms that she's leaving Hokkaido soon. Sayuri is stunned, as Minami has always seemed so comfortable and lively in their circle, and Minami admits that she truly loved her time with everyone. But seeing her friends grow passionate about their own dreams made her realize how directionless she has been, always chasing excitement without purpose. She wants to study makeup, build a path for herself, and become someone she can look at with pride. When she sees Mai outside the window, she decides she should head out. Sayuri offers to walk her, but Minami declines and tells her to enjoy her time with her old friend. Sayuri wishes her the best, then immediately messages Tsubasa to let him know Minami is on her way to the airport. Then, for the first time, Sayuri gives in and agrees to join Asuka and Hina for karaoke. Meanwhile, inside his room, Tsubasa struggles to lift himself off the bed. He's been replaying the moment he woke up in that hotel room, finding Minami gone and reading her apology note, which convinced him that she must not feel the same way he does. But the thought of not seeing her again terrifies him. When the hairpin she bought falls out of his bag, it jolts something awake inside him. He runs to his father, desperately begging for a ride to the airport. His dad initially refuses because he has an urgent meeting, but the moment he sees Tsubasa's determination crack through his usual quiet demeanor, he picks up the phone, delays his appointment, and tells his son to get in the car. Then they speed toward the airport. Meanwhile, in the departure hall, Mai tries to lighten Minami's mood with talk about shopping in Tokyo. But Minami can't stop checking her phone for messages from Tsubasa that never arrive. When the boarding call echoes through the terminal, Mai rushes to the restroom, leaving Minami to walk slowly toward the gate alone, convinced now that Tsubasa won't come. But before she reaches the line, she hears a familiar voice calling her name that is loud, breathless, and desperate. She turns and sees Tsubasa running toward her, and he presses the hairpin back into her hand. She thanks him softly, but then asks if that's all he has to say. Seeing her blushing face nudges him past his fear, and he finally tells her the truth that meeting her made him stop dreading Hokkaido, that she's the reason he fell in love with the place, that every memory they made is precious to him, and that he's willing to wait for her no matter how long she's gone. But then she tells him the part she hadn't mentioned, and that is that the makeup program is only 2 weeks long. His jaw drops, and he falls to his knees in mortification while she explains that even so, it's still a huge leap for someone who has never left Hokkaido before. So she promises to come back with a glow-up and new stories to tell. They part ways, and he stays behind to watch her plane take off, still wearing the red bracelet he gave her. 2 weeks later, Sayuri invites Tsubasa to a gaming event. When she sees him munching on fried chicken instead of bento, she points it out. He brushes her off lightly and sits beside her as Misa starts taking roll call. Suddenly, Minami walks through the classroom door and the room instantly brightens as everyone welcomes her back. Tsubasa shows her the fried chicken and she happily leans in to take a bite before offering him one in return. Misa pops in, scolding the two of them for acting like a couple, but after she leaves, Minami and Tsubasa exchange a look, happy just to be together again. Comment down below, Hokkaido lovers, if you watch till the end. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video.